So our first question is from Richie Budd. And he said, can you do a quick review of well-formed outcomes? And how do we know if it's a well-formed outcome? What qualifies it as such? It's a good question, Richie. What I love about well-formed outcomes, and I know you've done a lot of training in Orlando, so I know you've got your manual somewhere. If you look at your NLP manual, you'll have a copy of what the poster that was on the wall on a page talking about the 4 conditions that creates a well-formed outcome. So we want it to be stated in the positive, because as NLPers, we know that if we're telling ourselves, I don't want this, chances are our unconscious is going to be taking us towards what we don't want. We need to be assured that we have all the resources we need to achieve that goal. Now, sometimes when you've got a project or something that you're working on, you may need to get resources that you don't yet have. So what resources do you have that will enable you to achieve the goal? And what resources do you need, and how are you going to get them? And then there's another test. Again, it's on that sheet that's in your manual, to ensure that it's testable in all senses. So can you actually get clarity on what it is? Can you see it clearly? Can you see it? Can you feel it? Can you hear it if there's sounds? I think in the early days of NLP, there was an awful lot of see what you see, hear what you hear, feel what you feel. So can you get it in all the senses? How real can you make it in your mind? Because I often find when I'm coaching, and I'm in a minute, Steve's going to give you his thoughts as well, because I know that he's sitting there and he's got something to add. It wouldn't be Steve if he didn't have anything to add.
We'll find out.
So when you've got your goal in mind, a lot of people, they'll say, well, there's this thing I really want to do, and you know, I just can't see myself doing it. And they don't even know where they're going. They don't know what they need. They don't know what they have, what they haven't got. And a lot of them, they don't really know what it is. They haven't thought about it. They haven't gone through a process to decide whether it's what they really want. Is it good for them? And now we get to the last test, which is ecology. How will having this affect you, your family, your loved ones, your career, your business? What's going to be different as a result of having this goal? Now, some of these questions I'm throwing out at you may sound familiar. They should, because they're all in your NLP manual. So there are questions in your NLP manual that help take you through this process so that you can make sure that you've got a tick. First test, is it positive? Is it in the positive? Second test, what resources do I need? Do I have them? Yes. Or if I don't have them, what do I need to get and how do I get them? Third test, can I see it? Can I hear it? Can I feel it? Can I smell it? Do I get that taste of success? And then, is it good for you? If you get a tick with all of those tests, it's a well-formed outcome. Steve.
Okay, so great question. It's a big question, okay? It's a question which relates to both of the lessons that we've covered this month in the Secret Agents of Change membership group, okay? First Thursday of the month, we did a training session on diagnostics. Where do you start?
Yeah.
You know, where's the best place to start? Where are you going? Because that seemed like a good place to start. So that's part of the journey path for practicing your practice. Last Thursday, for growing your practice, the subject was preeminence, greatness, which is positioning. And we chose that subject because it kind of determines the attitude, how you show up. Okay. So if you're showing up in a way where you're kind of just cruising through it, you're drifting, a bit mediocre, you're kicking the tires, you're not really playing full out, that's going to have a huge impact on everything that you learn and everything you do thereafter. So we wanted those two pieces, diagnostics and preeminence, in at the very beginning for those two journey paths. Okay. Practicing your practice and growing your practice. I think conditions of well-formed outcomes goals is one of the next pieces that we could probably, and that's not necessarily in the journey path in the right sequence, but I think it's something we could probably spend a bit of time on and go quite deep into. Okay. Now, the time we got here, this live AHA session, we're probably not going to be able to go as deep into subjects as we can during the full lessons. Because if you look at all those 4 stages that Tina's talked about, every single one of those is probably worthy of an extra hour at least. Yeah. And for me, especially the last one. I was just about to qualify what I said, especially, because I don't think you get to the last one unless you've got the other 3. Yeah. So we go, what do you want? Why is that important? I really understanding why that's an important question is fundamental to, if someone comes in and says, I've got a problem, where are you going? So it links in with the diagnostics. If you don't know what you want, how do you expect to get it? Okay. That links into this as well. The well-formed conditions give you clarity of direction. And you'd have heard this in people's language where they go, I don't know what I want yet. I can't see myself doing it. It tells us where some of the work is. And they may not be able to see it yet because there might be some things that are blocking them. There could be some resistance, and that could be part of the ecology check. So it's one of those subjects where we can go through the list, just like Tina's done, go through and practice it. But I think we've got to go a little bit deeper into each of those subjects. Don't you agree, Tina? Yeah.
I do. This is like one of the prime things that I do with a client in a client session. I mean, just yesterday, somebody booked in to come to see me because they wanted to stop lying. She needed to stop lying to save her marriage, is what she said on the phone.
Yeah.
And then when she filled out her form, the language on her form didn't match what she told me on the phone. So now I'm thinking, ooh, this isn't just about lying. There's something else going on here. And then when she turned up for the session, we ended up doing a lot of coaching around the fact that she was in a dysfunctional, abusive, controlling relationship. And that was all when we looked at the well-formedness of her stopping lying. So she wanted to be her honest, truthful self. Yeah, tick. She could do that. She does it everywhere else. The only person she lies to is her husband. She does it at work, she does it with friends, family. He's the only one she lies to. And now I'm thinking, why would she lie to him if she doesn't lie to the other people? And then you go to the whole ecology thing, and she couldn't, it wasn't testable in all of her senses because she lied so that he didn't beat her. So now it's not ecologically sound. So every client I see, unconsciously, I'm running them through this matrix.
Yeah. And by the way, the example you just gave is a great example of why I said the last one I think is really, really important to begin to master. Quite often, people don't get what they want because there is something going on at an ecology level. That means that every behavior serves a purpose. So even if somebody is sabotaging or resistant, there's something going on at that level, which is helping them to stay stuck, to stay with their problem. So when you're doing the diagnostic, as soon as you reveal those secondary gains, there's real magic there. Yeah, so really learning how to use the conditions, especially that last one. And I keep saying especially because they are all equally important, you know, stated in the positive, sensory, etc. I forgot what they are now. I'll just repeat. It's all right.
They've got
There's
all the
fire alarms going
resources
off
they
outside and
need.
all sorts of things.
They've got the resources they need. They can do it.
That's it. Thank you. The sequence just disappeared. Yeah. Going and getting the resources and being resourceful, that's something we might need to teach them. Yes, we know there's the diagnostics tells us that that's where the work is to be done. But if we go to that ecology level and recognize that the behavior that they're doing serves them at some level, or certainly did at some point in the past, I think that's an area where a lot of people miss. So they can do a great piece of behavioral change work and then it doesn't stick because they haven't found that out and they haven't worked that out and they haven't made sure that the secondary gain is maintained in a more positive way. So just even this brief moment, we've been talking for, you know, how long we talk about 10, 15 minutes, whatever.
Yeah.
It's become really clear that this is a subject which we can't go into too much detail because we just don't have the time to, but it's certainly something I want to put into the membership group. And I think it probably fit into practice in your practice. And maybe we could do it as a separate tradecraft, Tina. We can talk about that later.
I'm thinking if we created a whole like a tradecraft video on doing this would be very useful for everyone.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say, Richard, is don't hold us to when we're going to do that because there's a lot going on at the moment. Okay. There was a last part. What was the last part of that question? Could you just repeat the last part for me, Tina?
Here we go. It says, how do we know if it's well-formed outcome? What qualifies it as such?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a really interesting. I think that's a great question. So we could go, it ticks all these boxes, but I also think there's another way of looking at it, which is one that we get to do with hindsight, which is, did it work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did it work? Yeah. Did whatever it was you were looking to achieve, did you achieve it or better? And when I think you look at something, a goal, a dream, an aspiration, and you've achieved it and you look back at it, that's when you start to recognize that those conditions were met. Yeah, that historically go, yeah, that worked. And I think it's a useful experiment as well to look at something that maybe you've gone to do. It's good for you. It's within your ability to do it. But for some reason you didn't do it. And then to go back through the conditions and go, which ones weren't met? Was there something there about the way it was stated or the resources? Yeah. Or whether I could see it clearly. Was the clarity clear enough? Was it like a dream like this? Or was it a dream like this? So sometimes it's good to have the distinction between what works and what doesn't work. So therefore you can see why the conditions are important and how they actually work.
You've just reminded me of a story that Richard Bandler tells quite a lot on the trainings where he was working with somebody and he just wasn't achieving this goal and he wasn't in the goal.
Yeah.
He was completely disassociated from it.
Yeah, it can be one small subtle piece that's not there. In fact, I had a client who came to see me, it was after one of the trainings, and we didn't do the conditions of, we didn't do a specific exercise about conditions of well-formed outcomes, but there was a project it was like his dream project. And for some reason, he just couldn't get to it, just wouldn't go. And we did a bit of exploration and it turned out there was some secondary gain, which meant as much as he was invested in it, he'd spent millions on this project. He spent, you know, a decade finding the right property, but there was something about the whole system that meant if he actually went ahead and did it, it wouldn't actually give him what his dream was. Yeah. So being able to master the conditions of well-formed outcomes, I think, is one of those areas that a lot of people don't really spend enough time doing. And I've also seen, Tina, I don't know if you agree with this, where you see people that because they don't have the clarity, they don't keep driving. They can end up meandering. kind of lost.
Yeah, because they don't know where they're going, really. They've got this vague idea of, I'd really like to have my coaching business.
Yeah.
And then they start seeing people part-time at the evenings, at the weekend, in their house somewhere. And it's not really, they haven't sat down and created an identity, a brand. It's not very professional. And
they dabbled.
Going where they want to go.
And even that playing small, or whatever you want to call it, that behavior serves a purpose. So there's some ecology check work to be done there, which is why I think this is a great question, because it maps, let's say, to preeminence, and it maps to diagnostics. So we're not going to spend too much time on that. Are we, Tina? 20 minutes is plenty of time to kind of scratch the surface of a very deep subject.
And I've got it on my list, Richie. We're going to do a trade craft on it.
Yeah,
I think that's the easiest way forward. So the next question is actually from Robert Owen. And
hi, Robert, because I think he's online. He was giving us a thumbs up on Facebook.
Hi, Robert.
In case any of you thought I was checking my phone, I was just seeing who's on.
Yeah, it's very disconcerting doing this, because it's like, oh, look, there's people waving at me, and I've got Facebook over here, and I want to look at you over here, and I have to, there we are. Close that down, then I can ignore Facebook.
So what's Robert's question? So
Robert has got a unique opportunity coming up, and he wondered whether the group qualified as supervision. Now, some professional bodies insist that their practitioners attend supervision. And not everybody is a member of one of these bodies and has to do this, but it's there's like counsellors will have to, psychotherapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, coaches, hypnotherapists within the UK. And if you're coaching and you're doing NLP work within the UK, whoever you belong to may want you to go and have supervision every month. Unfortunately, the group doesn't quantify. It doesn't work as supervision. Supervision is said to be face-to-face live meeting, either one-on-one or in a team. And the people being supervised run the agenda. Well, with these meetings, it's Steve and I that are running the agenda. So if you were going for supervision, you'd go with a caseload and with people you're working with, and you'd discuss your difficult cases. And then you'd be coached around what to do next. So, no, unfortunately, this isn't supervision. Now, Gloria Hammett and I, we created the International College of Clinical Hypnotherapy. We are in the process of running our very first supervisors course for people to be able to supervise NLPers, coaches, hypnotherapists. And it's all being done under the umbrella of the General Hypnotherapy Council. They're watching to see what happens. We've got our first tranche of supervisors coming through now, and they're going to be fully qualified and up to speed with helping people and supervising them through difficult cases. Now, historically, supervision has like a set limit on its fees. So supervision tends to be extremely reasonable. In the UK, you're looking at a maximum of maybe 50 or 60 pounds for a supervision session. So we will be creating supervisors. If any of you do want supervisors, Tanya Bunting, who works with Steve and I, she's going to be part of that tranche coming through. She's going to be one of our very first official supervisors. Send me a message or send us a message and I'll send you some information. And the next course for supervisors is going to be run next year, and it's all done online. So if there are people in the US or India or Asia who's interested in that, just let me know. It's a very interesting course. So.
Yeah, I haven't got much I'd like to add to that because that's your area.
Yeah.
I would like to say though, just something about that I'm sure you we'll find this, Tina, we found this, that not all supervision is equal.
No, it's not.
Yeah, just like not all training is equal, not all coaching is equal. So you cannot go anywhere better really than somewhere like Gloria and Martina. You know, people that have got these decades, can I say this, decades and decades of experience? Because, you know, Richard said that about us today. I know these people, they've been working with me for decades and decades. Oh, God, thank you, Richard, make us feel older. But they're not just teaching skills. They're not just teaching, you know, techniques. They've been out there building practices. Yeah. And I don't think you can be being trained by somebody who's been out there and has actually really put it into practice. So yeah, I'm a big fan of supervision. I'm a big fan of mentoring and big fan of practicing. So any opportunity to get with people to do that, fantastic. So yeah, grab hold of Gloria and Tina.
I have put together, or Gloria has put together, a video explaining what supervision is. And at some point that will appear on the membership site for you to have a look at. And one of the reasons why we devised this course, well, Gloria, not me, Gloria put the whole thing together, is because she was fed up with the quality of supervision that was available when people were NLPers, and when they went to look for supervision, they were being supervised by psychotherapists and counsellors. So this is something that's specific for us.
Yeah. Fantastic. Excuse me.
Well, the next question's for you, Steve.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I've decided.
Yeah, you decided. Fair enough. Thank you.
You're very
Fire away. What was the question?
So this is from Tanya. Thank you for inviting us to the University of Amazon. What a great strategy to know what your clients are looking for and how those that are preeminent are meeting those needs. Questions arising from this task are vast. This has left me with the challenge of finding the best question for my purpose at this time. So here we go. What one thing must the next generation of preeminent coaches do to stand out in their field? And then she says, I actually think you've already shared this. I'm welcoming repetition for emphasis.
Yeah, I kind of made it elusively obvious. No, I made it bleeding obvious. But I will reiterate for those of you that aren't in the membership group or maybe haven't seen that yet. How do you stand out from everybody else in a field? Okay, so you're all out in the field. It is a comparative analysis, isn't it? It's looking at you and it's looking at other people and looking at the difference that makes the difference, yeah? And making sure that you stand out for the right reasons. Now, if you are looking in the field, and we talked about this, and you want to be as good as the best, that's the only comparison you're making. And the difference between you and the best in that field could be quite small, could be quite linear, which is why I asked you guys to look outside of your field where there are some people that are maybe doing something slightly different to anything that's going on in your field of business. Yeah. Because if you can find that something which really sparks and it's something you can deliver, it's kind of authentic to you as well. But maybe you never really thought it mattered in your field and you bring that into your business, you really stand out from everybody else. That's very disruptive. Yeah, if we're talking about business, it's looking around for something that everyone else isn't doing that just gives you that huge edge. And there is one thing I would suggest that people, it's something for this new age, which is to really look into technology. Yeah, before we came on, Tina and I were just talking. I had a dream. I dreamt techniques. Can you believe it? Right. So we had a brilliant training session with Kathleen Lavelle on Saturday. Was it Saturday? Oh yeah, Saturday. We must do timelines next week, Tina. Yeah. A brilliant session with Kathleen Lavelle doing the meta model. I dreamt about the meta model, and it was a virtual reality 3D holographic way of using the meta model. Now, unfortunately, I didn't write all my notes down, so I'm going to have to go back into the dream at some point and find out how that worked. But it was about taking technology, augmented virtual reality, and creating something new and creating a new way of looking at something that made it easier for people to use, made it easier for them to understand, maybe made it easier for them to incorporate into what they do and to get some outcomes. And I think there's something there. If you really want to stand out in your field, especially in coaching, look out for what's coming along very soon to do with AI. Yeah, I suspect there will be a time very soon when we'll be ringing up doctors, and we won't be talking to doctors. We'll be talking to AI, because the algorithm behind the AI will be able to diagnose and give us quicker, more accurate solutions than the human doctor will. Yeah, and if that's happening in the medical field, which is already happening, there's no reason why that can't happen in therapy and coaching. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to make us redundant necessarily, okay? Because some people will still want to, meet and talk with people. But if you want to stand out, look for people that are bringing in new technology, new approaches, or even better still, look for them outside of your field and think, how could I apply that here? That's where I would go with that. That's where I'm already going with that. In fact, I'm doing that with my clients. We're constantly looking for things that aren't within their industry and going, can we bring that to here? And when you find something like that, it tends to be positively disruptive.
Love that. Positively disruptive.
Well, not all disruption is positive to start with, but
I think a lot of time people need a good shake-up. They need that disruption to enable them to come out of where they are. That's my excuse anyway. Next question is from Mohammed Azraf. The imposter syndrome is part of the reason why I haven't launched some programs yet. It's been 5 years.
5 years, okay.
5 years. How would you know and decide that a product is good enough? We're going back to well-formed outcomes, aren't we? Good enough to charge a premium. And secondly, any powerful tips to combat the imposter syndrome? There's a lot of people talking about imposter syndrome nowadays, aren't there? Have you noticed?
Yeah, there is.
It seems to be a buzzword,
I totally agree. I've noticed that probably in the last year and a half, it's out there more since probably lockdown has kicked it off, where a lot of people are kind of moving online. So It means they're actually putting themselves out there in a way they weren't doing before. And hence all the internal chat going, am I good enough? Does everyone really love me? All the stuff that some people do is becoming more prevalent.
And I have noticed, which amuses me greatly, we didn't have anybody doing this last Saturday on our webinar. I have noticed some people on webinars, when you look at the audience, you've got people doing this, and all sorts of things. It's like this is just a mirror, and they're completely disconnected from the process. And then they wonder why this doesn't work for them. Yeah.
They've not really mastered what it's all about. But I do want to talk very specifically. So I think there's two things I would just want to pick up with the imposter syndrome. Is it valid? That'd be my first question. Are you an imposter? Yeah. Okay. So it might not be a question that might automatically spring to mind, but it's where my mind goes. Yeah. Are you dabbling? Really? You playing small? Yeah. You kicking the tires, or are you putting everything into what you've got? If you know that you've put everything into what you've got, you're doing your best work. We're back to preeminence and greatness. Yeah. Then there's no imposter syndrome going on there. Yeah. So the imposter syndrome, whatever that is, could be going, Could be there for a reason, because every behavior serves a purpose at some level.
Yeah.
It's, are you doing your best piece of work? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, the imposter's bang right on your case. Okay, so there's a benefit to it. Do a better job. There is the other side to that argument, which is, at what point does it go from being a secondary gain, keep working on something so you don't have to launch it, or is it, I'm working to get this right? So I'm all for having things imperfectly perfect or perfect imperfect, whichever way around, it works the same. Yeah. Let's do the work. Let's get it as best we can, and let's get it out there.
Yeah.
Because then getting it out there, that will let you know whether what you're offering is of value, and will then command the premium prices. That's the only way you're going to know, by doing the experiments.
Yeah.
And just because you may not get your premium prices at the beginning doesn't mean it's a failed experiment. You have to look at the experiment and go, is there something about what I've done that maybe I need to improve? It could be the marketing. It could be the research as to who you're presenting your material to. Yeah. I had a similar experience, by the way, Mohammed. I was at Michael Neal's house in California. Okay. And there was a coach there. And Michael said to me, would you, he put it out to everyone, said, do you want to be coached by this guy? And nobody put their hand up. And he said, Steve, we've got this great coach. No one wants to be coached. Would you go and be coached? I went, well, I haven't got an issue. He said, well, just go. So I sat in the chair. And this guy said, what do you want? I said, nothing really. Life is good. Okay. Oh, I know. Something's just popped into mind. It's, I've been working on these recordings and I haven't put them out there. So it's similar. I've been working on them for about 5 years and hadn't really pushed them out there. And the guy really challenged me. It was quite provocative. Yeah. To get me to look at why I wasn't putting it out there. And it was because I had this perception of how it all should look before I put it out there. Okay. And the perception was just made up in my mind. Yeah. It was part of secondary gain holding me back from just letting this out into the world. So we come back to that first question about well-formed outcomes, and the one that I said I think is really important. Yeah. Just check, what does the imposter syndrome do for you, give you, get you? Yeah. Reveal any of the secondary gain that may be coming from that, work on that. But you know what? Launch it. Get it out there. Run a test. You know, that's what we've done, Tina, isn't it? We did the prosperity mission as a test. Yeah. Put it out there to a relatively small group of people to get some feedback so we know what it's worth. It's the same with the Secret Agents of Change membership site. We put it out there to a relatively small group of people to do the test so we can then put it out there and go, we know the value of this. And by the way, we could cap it here, but the market could go, actually, it's worth more. Yeah. Yeah. Do the work, put it out there.
And again, as Steve said, we're back to well-formed outcomes. That sequence and those different tests within that process is invaluable. And the other questions that Steve was saying there, you know, what does it give me, get me, etc. All of these, Mohammed, are in your manual, in your NLP practitioner manual. So these questions, if you look at the beginning of the manual where it's looking at like desired state, present state, all of those, that's where the questions are. Answer those questions, run through those processes.
Something's just popped into my conscious awareness as well, especially because Mohammed was on the prosperity mission. Do a reframe on the word premium. Premium, quite often, it's not about premium to you. It's a premium to your client. You know, premium value.
Yeah.
A lot of people process premium as an expensive. So make sure that there's nothing there about the word premium which you kind of maybe have anchored to some sort of financial threshold. Yeah. When I hear the word premium, I think premium to who? You know, one person's premium is another person's bucket discount, isn't it? Yeah. So what may be premium may not be premium to other people. Kind of just get the language out of it. And just put something of value and go, this is what I'm charging for it. And then, by the way, keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And the market will tell you when you've reached the threshold. Next one, Tina.
Next. So the next one comes from Richie Bird. Richie, you've given us some huge subjects, as Steve said earlier. Fabulous questions.
Richard likes to chunk up, doesn't he? Yeah.
He does, yeah, definitely big picture person. Fabulous questions, darling. We will answer this. And again, we may need to do more later. So the question is, and logical levels. Does this have to do with the base being environment, next level strategies, next higher is beliefs, and top is values? Thanks, Richie.
What was the question?
Does logical levels have to do with the base being environment, the next level being strategies?
Okay, so really, what are logical levels?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, the answer.
Yeah,
and there's more. There's identity and there's
spirituality.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of that sequence, by the way. I don't think it looks like that in my. You know me, Tina. I can't leave any models alone. I like to play with them and see if there's a better model.
Them. Yeah.
To me, spirituality runs right down through the core of them. So it's almost like a pyramid, a cone. Yeah. So for me, spirituality runs right down through, because a lot of people go. I know people have heard questions that you need to be at this identity in order to then become spiritual, and that's not true.
Yeah,
that's not truth. Whether people are aware of that spiritual running through that model or not doesn't mean it's not there. But actually, we come back full circle to what we were talking about in terms of why we started with the membership group that started with diagnostics, because environment is the land of anchors. Yeah.
I mean, Richie didn't even mention environment. He started with he did start with environment. He didn't mention experience. So
the land of experience and anchoring. Capabilities, strategies, and skills is strategies as well. Then we're up to the land of beliefs and values and identity. And if you can change someone's identity, there's like profound changes right through. But sometimes it's easier to go make environmental changes. In fact, in the lesson we did, Tina and I shared slightly different strategies. Like I like to go up to beliefs and tidy up any limiting beliefs about the work we're going to do first, and then a bit of clean up with environmental triggers, change the strategy and back up to beliefs again. Whereas Tina, you went straight to...
I went straight to whatever was indicated with the language that they were using. So from the meta model pattern that I heard, if it was strategies, then I might start in strategies. But that said, and I did that on purpose to delete what I've just said. That said, most people, I'm going to say like 99% of people, they will give you a complex equivalence, a normalization, or a cause and effect, which takes you straight up to the level of beliefs and values.
Yeah.
So you do the change there, and then once I've done the change there, I run it up and down the levels a couple of times while I'm future facing.
Yeah, and again, Richard, it's a huge chunk. There's a lot of, we haven't got time to really go into it. We could spend hours and hours exploring how to use it, the different levels, how to chain them. I like to take people, I like to find clients that are already in the area of identity and spirituality, so the spiritual entrepreneurs, okay? Because then there's more rapport with spiritual entrepreneurs than the people that are just very mechanical and they're just in for profit. Because when I'm talking to people that have got that connection already, maybe it's just something they're aware of. They got a hint to it. They may not be totally immersed in being a spiritual entrepreneur, doing things that serve them, serve their clients, and serve the greater good. But if I find someone and I can see against my transparency that that's where the conversations are, we're probably going to work together. If they're the right fit. So I think it's a great subject to really go into deeper. We'll certainly look at how we can, offer more deeper conversations around the logical levels, because I think it's well, Kathleen was, we didn't have time to, did we? Was going to link the meta model to the logical levels. So maybe that's something we can ask her for on another time.
We can, yeah. Next time we can ask her to do that for us. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if we actually answered the question, because I'm not really clear what the question was. I think that's the logical levels. There are levels, and it's logical. Okay.
I think we answered the question when we said yes, because he said,
yeah,
does this have to do with the base being environment, next level strategies, high level belief, and tops is values? Well, kind of. I would say, yes, I would say kind of.
I also wonder, okay, so I'm going to do a mind read. I wonder whether the question's asked because it isn't actually in our practitioner manual. So it's not necessarily a subject that gets formally trained. So we won't be training it on our practitioner, will we? So it tends to be a subject which is outside of most of the syllabus. So I'm wondering if that's why. So perhaps it kind of just feels like it would be a good thing for us to do, either as a standalone lesson for those that have really had no introduction into it, or even as a tradecraft. I think it's probably worthy of a few lessons.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, Richie, if Richie has done the Master Practitioner in Orlando, and I'm not sure if I can remember seeing him in a Master Prac, he would have done logical levels, because Kathleen attaches them to the meta model for the Master Practitioner.
Right, okay. So that would be the only time I've seen logical levels added into a Society of Training, yeah?
Yeah.
So again, I'm totally mind reading whether that's why the question's being asked, because it's outside of the normal remit. But hey, look, if you want some nighttime reading that will send you to sleep, Gregory Bateson's, I've forgotten the name of the book now, because every time I get it open, I go, yeah. But look up Gregory Bateson. It's to do with research into behaviors of dolphins. So that'll keep you busy.
There are plenty of books out there on logical levels too that will keep you busy and are equally as sleep driven. So we have another question from Richie, and this is from the Prosperity Mission, because he started a bit late and he's posting on the group.
Yeah, good that he's keeping going. Well done.
It's fabulous. Yeah, keep it coming. Keep it coming. How does someone try on what a client is experiencing? Because I think we talked about dipping into what someone is experiencing, and he wants to know how he does that.
Yeah, okay. And again, I think this also links into diagnostics. There are times that it's very useful to do that, and also dips into the preeminence, because it really is almost like doing a deep trance identification.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. A question to ask those: do you really need to? It depends on the person you're working with, whether you need to really step into their shoes and get an experience of what they're experiencing.
Some clients, do you want to?
Yeah, exactly. You know, if someone's in pain, I don't necessarily want to go in there and go, oh yeah, I really feel your pain now. Literally, that's really useful. Yeah, no. So just be judicious with that when you choose to step in. So I guess the other question is, how do you do it?
That's what he wants to know.
Yeah, you want to know how to do it.
I did put on the group when he put the question, and I said, well, the simplest answer is it's a variation of deep trance identification.
Yeah, but deep trance identification doesn't have to be deep to be useful.
No, it doesn't.
Does it? It could be, okay, I'm listening and I'm processing what somebody's saying to me, and I can have it on a big screen. So let's say, for example, I'm working with somebody who's been through a traumatic experience. I want to better understand whatever I need to understand is going to be useful to them. But I don't want to feel bad about it. Okay, no, I'm going to be detached and couldn't care less. Yeah. I want to have compassion, but I don't necessarily want to be so empathic that I feel as bad as they do. So in that case, I will see it on a screen and I'll disassociate and see it play out. Okay. But there may be times on that screen in my mind, I'll just quickly drop into it and go, okay, I'm looking through their eyes. As Tina said earlier on, seeing what they're seeing, hearing what they're hearing, feeling what they're feeling. Okay, I've just got a little bit of a download that can be useful. but I can probably get a lot of that information by asking better questions.
Yeah, well-targeted questions will get you what you need.
Yeah.
I have a different way. My way, I stole from John Laval. I put my hands up. John, if you're watching, John talks about having a timeline just for his clients when he's working with clients.
Yeah.
And I always used to have like a screen. And then the minute he said timeline, my brain went, oh, that would be useful. Yeah. So I run a timeline that's just for them. So as they're telling me about stuff in the past, it's being put on the timeline, and I'm laying it out in front of me so I can see what's happening, where they're going, what they're experiencing, and where they are. And if I need a little bit of clarity for me as to how effective my future pacing or what I'm going to do for them is, I might actually dip in at that point and try on how it works.
Yeah, and as you're describing that, I do the same thing on the screen. Okay, so I'm not just processing what they're saying. I'm looking at, I'm seeing the timeline of maybe the past that they're talking about and what do you want. And then if I think it's right and appropriate or necessary, I will, as Tina used the phrase, try it on. Mm. Now you might think, well, what does try it on mean? You want to try it on? Come on in. It doesn't mean that. It means I'm gonna float out and step in, and that takes a little bit of practice. If you don't know how to do it and haven't done it, but I mean, if you've done MasterCLASS, you'd have done plenty of exercises like that. But we'll certainly do a few more. In fact, next month in July, is it July that we're going to be doing? No, July we're doing addictions and compulsions, aren't we?
No, July we're doing time.
We're doing time. That's it. I know it's about time. Yeah. So
July is about time. Yeah.
Right. So perfect question. The perfect question for next month. We're going to be looking at timelines. Yeah, and time and how we process time and how it can be useful. So we can look at that as well, can't we, Tina? Can we put that into what we're going to do? Yeah, so you get the chance to step in, to associate, to disassociate, run back through the past if that's relevant, off into the future. And I like doing the future just to see if there's anything you go, okay, that didn't work. Why is that? Oh, maybe there's some secondary gain going on. So again, we come full circle and link back, the conditions of well-formed outcomes to that.
And as to actually trying it on, I mean, with all the decades and decades of experience that I have, I kind of just slide in, literally like on a slide, whee! And I got that from an old movie called Being John Malkovich. It's quite funny. Look it up on Netflix or Amazon Prime, Being John Malkovich. It's somebody literally being John Malkovich. So I go and try it on. Now, there is an exercise that you could do. So if you see your client in front of you or the person where you want to try on, so maybe for practice, choose somebody that has a skill or a capability that you really would like to get better at or just acquire an idea of. Have a clear image of them in front of you. And sometimes, it sounds a bit weird, it's easier if you get in from behind. So get behind them and then put them on like you're putting a suit of clothes on, like you're putting an outfit on, and then be that person. And then from there, you should be able to just, after practice, just step in.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the way to do it, to practice it. Watch TV programs, find someone that you like and has maybe got a resource or a skill, behavior, capability that you'd like to get an insight into or a download from. Watch as many clips of those as you possibly can, and then just give yourself permission just to step into them for a few moments so you can see through their eyes, hear through their ears, feel what they feel, and borrow from that and then step back out of it. And by you practicing that when you're sitting with someone is just so easy to do. And I'll tell you what's really weird and interesting, and I love weird, so embrace the weirdness, is there'll be times when you do this and people will go, How do you know that? Because you suddenly get little insights and things that pop.
I remember being in a shop, in a crystal shop with somebody I wanted to buy a present for. I didn't know them that well, but I knew they liked crystals, and they were in the crystal shop as well. And in my head, I saw this person in front of me. I stepped into this person. I imagined what it would be like to be that person. And I wandered around looking at all the crystals in the shop through their eyes. And then I found a crystal, decided that was the crystal they wanted. I purchased it. And then as I was at the cash desk, they came up behind me and they went, "You've just bought my crystal." And that was the exact crystal they wanted.
Yeah, weird stuff happens. So embrace the weirdness. So it's definitely a skill to practice, but know when to use it, know when to not to use it.
Definitely. So now we have, I guess it's good evening. Big hug from Marco Caputo in Roma.
Hey, Marco.
Ciao, Marco. Good morning, he says. My question for the AHA session is, which are the principles differences between NLP and NHR or DHE? And why choosing some instruments or others? Thank you for your patience in advance. Wow. Yes, 3 different methodologies of Richard's. Mm-hmm. So shall I go first and then you can add, or do you want to go first?
You kick off. I've always got something to say, so you kick off first.
So NLP is the study of subjective experience. Way back when, 50 years ago, Richard was reviewing, modeling things that at that point in time therapists were doing. So Milton Erickson, Virginia Satir, Fritz Perls, and a few other people. And he was modeling the patterns. And from there, he came up with various ideologies and different techniques. And then later on, he came up with NHR. NHR is primarily about the kinesthetic. It's about feelings. So whereas within NLP, you're working with the full spectrum, NHR does tend to focus primarily on how you feel. And it uses hypnosis to restructure experiences that you have at a neurological and chemical level. It's all about creating chemicals. So you learn within NHR how to saturate your neurology with the chemicals that make you feel good. It's about creating positive states. It's about collapsing negative states. And if you get your whole body in the right state, there's basically nothing you can't do. And then you go to DHE. I love DHE. So DHE is all about creating a control panel in your mind. The whole course teaches you how to calibrate different thoughts and different processes. So you could have on your control panel your representational systems. So you could have audio on your control panel, and you just, by moving a control on your control panel in your mind, you can change the submodalities. Now it uses all the basic NLP skills like anchoring, language patterns, etc. But within it, you're creating tools that will enable you to get great results and improve what you do. So that's my take on the 3 differences. Now, the other question, what's the question up here? Why would I choose some more than others? That's an interesting question, Marco, because I think they've all now been fused together. So while I'm NHRing someone, I'm using elements from NLP. NLP, you could say, is kind of like the foundation for DHE. It literally takes your NLP skills to another level and adds to your toolbox. So I don't really differentiate. I have it all in the same place. And now we're going to find out what Steve says.
So I have a Venn diagram, okay? NLP, DHE, NHR, and the overlap in between, okay? And they just create this wonderful framework. So for me, NLP is, how do I do this and how do you do that? Okay, let me borrow from that. Let me find out how I'm doing and maybe stop doing and do more. Okay, so it's modeling, it's the strategies. But I remember John Laval saying that with NLP, we're actually modeling other people's limitations even.
Yeah.
Yeah. So although somebody may be doing excellence, their excellence may be limited. So we can take that, which could be a great, excellent strategy or skill or capability, and we move it into DHE and go, how can I, with the control panel, how can I improve it? So to me, this is almost like stabilize. Yeah. This is optimize. Let's get that dashboard and go, let's turn that up. Oh, that's good. Oh, I don't like that. Wow, look, I've just created something new that's even better than that. Now let's maximize and lock it in place with NHR. Let's get the whole neurology and everything all kind of working congruently. So that's my view on it. So it's almost like it doesn't have to be in this sequence, but to me, it starts NLP, DHE, changing, and I wouldn't use those phrases in anything I do. Yeah, I don't even mention NLP. Yeah, I certainly won't mention we're going to do some DHE now. No. How do we do what we do? Can we improve upon it? Can we make it even better? And how do we lock it in place? And when I say lock it in place, doesn't mean it's fixed. Lock it in place so it just gets better and better and better. That's my view on those three.
Yeah, and I think they feed off each other. Each one complements the other one. Now, people can come and do NHR without any NLP or DHE experience, and they do DHE without any NHR or NLP experience. They are standalone courses that will teach you specifics for that subject. When you put them all together, it takes what you're doing with NLP from here to there.
Like that, even wider.
Yeah.
Zero limits. Yeah. So I like the question because it's actually DHE for me is looking outside of the box. Like earlier on, we were talking about looking outside the field. Yeah, it's what can I do with this and maybe add something that's never been done before. Maybe something I've never experienced before. Yeah, and adding something which could be totally positively disruptive and then hardwiring it.
Yeah.
So great question. It's a question of someone who's exploring. I love that.
Yeah, Marco is always exploring.
Yeah, fantastic. Keep at it. Yeah. So we got any more questions, Tina? We're coming up to the hour and I'd like to be punctual with our time. Look at that, we've got 2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
So thank you for everyone that's been here. I've been keeping an eye. We've got some people here asking questions, giving thumbs up and whatever. If you're on the practitioner this weekend, make sure you've had your COVID test done, your flow test, so we can all...
Mine this morning.
Yeah, we can all reach out and grab hold of each other and do some amazing things. If you're in the membership group, we'll be posting this into the membership group so you can revisit. It's going to be on Facebook just for a couple of days, just for the people in the Facebook group. But for you in the membership group, you're going to have full access to this in the membership site. And we will be taking a week's break from the membership site. It's a week, maybe 2 weeks actually, because of June. I can't wait till we do timelines again, Tina, and get my timelines back. They keep disappearing. I'm just so present. I have no freaking idea what day of the week it is.
We will definitely be doing timelines in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, okay, yeah. So remember, it's the first Thursday of the month is practice your practice. Second Thursday of the month is grow your practice. Third Thursday of the month, we'll be doing an AHA here, and we'll be focusing primarily on the questions from people from the membership group. But if you've got any other questions, put them out there and we'll do our best to answer them.
Yeah, if we have time, then we will answer other questions. as Steve said, we are going to start off with the questions from our students and from the group first.
Yeah, and we are doing timelines next month. Okay, so let us know what questions you have about timeline, because we could deliver hours and days. We've done this too. We've done workshops for weekends and weekends on time.
Yes.
So having a shortage of training materials is something we struggle with, but we'd rather deliver what you want to know.
Too much to fit in the time slot we have.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
that's okay, because we will revisit it one day.
Yeah, we'll revisit it in 6 months' time at least. Yeah. So we're going to wrap things up now. Look, it's right on the hour. How about that for timing?
Perfect timing, as always. So thank you, guys. See you next time. I'll see you soon, Steve.
And you. Yeah, thanks for the warning. See you guys next time. Be well.
Bye.